Hey YouTube, welcome. My name is Harpreet and I'm a software engineer. This is going to be a series of tutorials geared at building our very own software engineering project. What we're going to be building is a bot for the popular instant messaging platform known as Discord. Now I want to emphasize, don't worry if you don't have much experience with Discord or any of these other tools and technologies that we're going to be using, because we will go through each of them individually and in detail. Let's get started. Now, before we start writing any code at all, let's take a step back and think about the overall architecture of this project a little bit, just like any software engineer would. We want to make sure we have a good idea of all of the components in the system, as well as where we want to take this project in the future. Let's first consider the most obvious component in our system, which is going to be Discord itself. I'm going to go ahead and label it red to show that we don't have any real control over it. The most basic implementation of this project is going to require us to build some sort of bot, and we're going to do that using NodeJs. And the bot also needs to communicate bidirectionally with Discord so we can send and receive different types of events, things like new messages or when someone joins or leaves the server. At this point, we can start thinking more about the future of our project. It's very common at this point to think more about how to store data in the form of a database. We don't have to worry too much about what type of database we want to use, but it's important to know that our bot needs to be able to communicate with it. From here, since we're already on the topic of databases, why don't we just add a cache in here as well? This might actually come in handy. Let's say we built some sort of command where someone can look up the weather. Let's say a user looks up the weather of San Francisco in the morning, and another user looks up the weather of San Francisco 30 minutes later. The weather may not have actually changed, so that's some sort of data that we can store into a cache and just pull it out every time another user calls it. And maybe at the end of every day, we can wipe that cache. The next stage is going to be to build out our website so we can share more information about our bot to potential users. We'll do this by building a separate backend server in Node.js and a front-end server using React.js. The front end and back end need to communicate bidirectionally since we'll want to add some sort of login ability later on. And the site is also going to have to communicate with the same database that we made for our bot earlier. And we can also throw in a separate cache for our website. If you didn't think it could get any more complex than this, you thought wrong. Once we have a working bot and website, let's go ahead and try to containerize everything. This is going to help us, especially when we think about scale of this project. Now, we may not ever have our bot in a million servers, but on the off chance it is, once we have everything containerized, we can scale it. That means we can have 10, 15 instances of our bot running, maybe on 10 or 15 different computers. My favorite part of building a system like this is something a lot of software engineers will end up neglecting, which is automation. There's a lot of manual steps in this system. You have to compile your code, build your Docker images, maybe even lint your code and test it. And so we can use something called Jenkins, which is a server that we can set up, which will do a lot of those manual things for us. And once we build those Docker images, we can even push them up to our private Docker Hub registry. The last step, once we have this entire automated workflow in place, is to use some sort of container orchestration system, like Docker Swarm or Kubernetes. And there you go. We have our entire architectural diagram for what we're going to build throughout this series. And it looks very intimidating. But I promise, we're going to take this one step at a time and digest and go in depth into each and every single one of these components so we can all understand it together. Now that we have our design figured out, let's go ahead and actually start working on the bot. I've gone ahead and already gone to discord.com and registered for an account. I'm going to go ahead and click Open Discord. And this is going to load the Discord web browser for us. And this is going to be important for us getting the bot into our actual server. Now, when we first join Discord, we're not part of any servers, so we need to go ahead and make a server. I'm going to go and click Add a Server, create my own. We can do for me and my friends, and I'll leave the name as is. And now we have our first server. You'll notice I'm the only person online, but we need to get our bot into here somehow. Before we can do that, we actually need to set up the bot. So now we'll go to discord.com/developers/applications, and I'll click New Application in the top right, and I'll give it a name. We'll name it Harpreet's Bot. Now we've set up an application that we can assign our bot to. So now we need to actually make the bot. On the left-hand side, we can click Bot, and we can click Add Bot. Yes, do it. And this will go ahead and create a bot for our application. Now, one thing that's special to note here is the token. We're going to have to use this later on when we actually code our bot. But for now, we want to get our bot into our server. So we'll click OAuth 2 on the left-hand side and URL generator. Now scopes, these are the permissions that we need to assign to our application. Now we're building a bot, so we want to give it a bot scope. Also, we can now give permissions to our bot. Now there's some cases where you may not want to give it administrator permissions, but for us, since we don't care too much about what this thing is going to do, we're going to go ahead and give it administrator. And when we scroll down, we'll see generated URL. We can go ahead and copy this and paste this into a new tab. And this will give us the ability to add our bot to our server, similar to how you would invite a user to your server. Now we can go click add a server, add to server, add them to my server, go ahead and click continue. And now it's just going to want to verify the permissions that we set. We do want to grant it administrator, so we'll click authorize. Do a quick CAPTCHA check here. And just like that, we've authorized it. We can go and close this tab and go back to our server, and we'll notice that our Harpreet's bot just joined the server. So now when we build our bot and we program it to join, it'll go ahead and join this server. Now that we have our bot application set up, we can finally start writing our code. We're going to do this by coming to our desktop, making a new bot folder. And within this folder, we're going to open up a terminal window. From the terminal window, we want to initialize our new Node.js project, which we do by typing in npm init, which is short for initialize, and -y, which basically just says yes to all the default settings when you're making a new project. The next thing we're going to want to do is install the discord.js library. Now, luckily for us, someone has done a lot of work in building and maintaining this, and so we don't have to worry about a lot of the issues that happen when you're talking to an API. So we're going to type in npm install discord.js. Now from here, we're just missing one more thing. We need to come back to our folder, and we need to make a new index.js file. This is where we're going to be writing all of our bot code. Now from here, we're going to go and open up our code editor, which will be Visual Studio Code, and we can go and we can try to open that folder where we just added all of our code. Now from the left-hand side, we're going to see all of our files. We're going to open up the index.js, and now we're going to start writing the minimal code that we need to get our bot running. The first thing we're going to do is import from our discord.js library. And we're going to import two specific classes, client and intents. Next thing we want to do is initialize our client class. And we're going to pass in this very special field here called intents. Now, if you remember when we were building our architectural diagram, we said that our bot and Discord needed to communicate bidirectionally. This is because Discord is going to be sending us events. The intents here is what we're telling Discord we want to receive. Now, we may want to receive just when someone sends a new message or when someone joins a server. But in our case, since we're building this bot for whatever we want Discord to send us every single event that happens on our servers. We're going to do this by using intents.flags.guilds. Now we're going to use client.once. And this piece of code here is basically something that's going to happen one time when the client says that it's ready. So basically, once our code has communicated with Discord, authenticated, and established a working connection, whatever we write within this function is going to run just one time. So we're going to use this just to print out, something like ready so that we know when our bot is connected and is able to start receiving new events. And we're missing one very important piece of our code, which is actually logging in to the Discord API. We're going to do that by typing in client.login. Now, as part of this function, we actually need to pass in a bot token. So if we go back to our web browser and we go to bot, we can scroll and we can find the token here. Now, this is a secret value that you don't normally want to share with other people, because if someone else gets access to this, they can essentially imitate your bot. I'm going to go and click copy, come back to my code editor, and I'm going to replace it right here. I'm going to click terminal, and we're going to open up a terminal just in Visual Studio Code so it's a little bit easier for us. And we're going to start running our bot. So we're going to type in node index.js. And we got our ready message, and this should mean that our bot is in our server. If we go back to our server, we're going to notice that under online, it shows me as well as my bot. So the bot is here. It's now able to receive messages from Discord. We just haven't programmed anything yet. So even if we come back to Discord and we type something random, we're not going to see anything for our bot because we haven't programmed our bot to either accept those events or do something with them or run any type of command automatically. Now, the next thing I want to do is to actually extract this bot token out of this file and put it into a separate one. It's a security risk right now, especially while I'm making these videos. So I'm going to go ahead and highlight it, cut it out of here, and now we're going to make a new file called config.json, which is where we're going to put this token. Within this file, it's going to be a JSON file, so we need to have our two curly braces, and our key, let's just use token. And for its value, we're going to put our bot token. From this point, we can go back to our index.json, and now we just need to import that JSON file. And token is our variable, so we're going to go ahead and extract that right into there. And we want to make sure our code's working, so let's Control C to close our bot program, and let's rerun it. We shouldn't expect anything different. Ready means that it's working and that the changes that we made are good to go. And to double check, we can make sure our bot is still on our server. Now that we have a working bot, let's add in our very first command. And let's start with something super simple. When I type in the word ping, I want the bot to reply to me with the word Pong. To do this, we need to add a new event handler for the message create event. The first thing we're going to check is to make sure that the message didn't come from the bot account. We don't want it to try to reply to itself. From here, we're going to check the contents of the message. And if the contents of the message happen to equal ping, we're going to go ahead and do a message reply with Pong. We need to make one more change, and that's actually to our intents. As of right now, we're not going to get any message events because we haven't specified the guild's message intent. We can cancel our bot with Control C, go ahead and rerun it. Now if we head on back to our Discord server and we send in the message ping, we should get a reply back with Pong. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure you like and subscribe and stay tuned for the next episode where we're going to build an even more complicated command.